In this presentation, I shall be presenting on preparing for PhD Viva Voce. Preparing for PhD Viva Voce, the PhD defense. I am Abayomi S. Daramola, a clinical psychologist. As I've said, I will be making my presentation for preparing for PhD Viva Voce, PhD defense. The D-Day. The PhD Viva Voce is a crucial milestone in a researcher's journey. Though the mode and the style can vary based on different formats, different universities, there could be different formats in the way this is conducted. So your ability to manage anxiety and related stress pressure is very important, because there's going to be anxiety, there's going to be pressure while preparing for this. So a candidate should be able to manage this pressure and anxiety in the course of preparing for PhD defense. The main focus of PhD defense is to evaluate the thesis, number one. The second is to assess candidates' presentation and defense. So the thesis will be assessed. In most universities, before the exam day, they probably have looked through and put a report together on the thesis. But at that day, further evaluation of the presentation skill and how the candidate is able to respond to questions asked will be evaluated. So before the D-Day, it is expected that a PhD student have practiced extensively. So there is need to practice before the main day, and adequate practice is essential by a PhD student. A PhD student is expected to have practice, and this practice can involve presentation to the supervisor or advisor. It can involve presentation to some groups, some small groups. Maybe if such a candidate have groups that they normally interact with together to present in preparing for other seminar before, such a group can be used, or groups of people in this same research team or in the same units, or group of friends on PhD program. Different fora should be used for rehearsing, making several rehearsals before the D-Day. This will help such a student to have a grasp of the work before the day. So this is expected to have been done before the day of the Viva Voce. A candidate can generate several questions that are likely to come up and practice responding to these questions. It is also good if a student can make recorded presentation, audio and video recording, and also time the presentation to see if the presentation is within the expected time frame by the university where the candidate is going to be presenting the PhD thesis defense. So we've done about the preparation. A candidate should also get set to have his thesis should be available. In some university they call it dissertation, but thesis is the example we are using here. So a candidate should have certified copy. A certified copy for that level should be available for students to have handy during the defense. Usually a copy and that copy must have followed the university grammatical, spelling style, flow, layout, formatting, picture chart, and all that ought to have been resolved at this stage. So a student is also expected to have a PowerPoint slides for the presentation. Any form of presentation format that is acceptable by the university can be used by students. A student should also have notepad and pen handy to take notes on some of the corrections that will be effected after the defense, because during the questions there is need to take note of observations, questions, and area where an improvement can be done. Now, the presentation proper. During the Viva Voce, a candidate will do a presentation of his work. This is when the PowerPoint will be handy. For some university, the presentation is 10 to 15 minutes maximum for the candidate to present. Some will give 20 minutes maximum period of presentation. This presentation period will now be followed by 1 hour to 2 hour questioning. So I will term this type as a short or brief presentation format. So some universities use short, brief presentation format in which the PhD students will present for 10 to 15 minutes or 20 minutes maximum. Such a student will be timed not to go beyond that period. Then the question and answer section will follow for about an hour or 2 hours, depending on the university. Some universities also use a model known as the long presentation format. A candidate might be asked to present for 45 minutes or 60 minutes, which is an hour. So after the presentation, the questions and answer section will follow for about an hour or 2 hours. Kindly note the short presentation of 15 or 20 minutes, or the long with presentation of 45 to 60 minutes, then question of 1 hour or 2 hours will follow, depending on the university model. There are other variations of this presentation format which are determined by the university of interest. Now, possible focus of presentation session for a PhD. For such a PhD student, you are expected to present the knowledge gap as identified in your research work. You are expected to state the research questions or hypotheses clearly during your presentation. You are also expected to state the objectives of your research work during your presentation. You are also expected to be able to define your research design and methodology used in your research. You should be able to state all the methods you use either in your experiments, either in your collecting of data, whether it's qualitative, whether it's quantitative, whether it's mixed method, or whichever format you use to design designs in your methodology. You should be able to state it during the course of your presentation, whether it's a short presentation or long presentation. You're also expected to describe procedure used in your research. The procedure used in your research is expected that you also state it while you are doing your presentation. Then from there, you are expected to now present your findings. Findings from your research is expected to be presented at this stage. Once you present that your finding, you should be able to state your conclusion. Remember that your conclusion should derive from the result of your research, not generalized conclusion, but from the findings of your studies. You should also emphasize the major contribution to knowledge of this PhD thesis. major contribution to knowledge is essential. Now, since you have the understanding of what should go into your presentation, let's quickly look at formats of variants of PhD defense mode by different universities. Some universities have what they call in-person Viva. This is traditional face-to-face. Everybody will be in the same room. The candidate will present and defend. Everybody seated in the same room. So this is in-person Viva. Another mode that is being used is remote Viva. This can be conducted via video conferencing platform, allowing participants to join from anywhere in the world. All the participants might not be in the same room. They will join from different parts of the world. So all of them can be virtual. Another format variation that we have is hybrid Viva. Hybrid Viva is that some will be in the same room while some will join virtually. So this combines the mode of in-person and remote participation from different locations. In some universities, the hybrid is only the external examiner that can participate virtually. So meaning the candidate, the supervisor, PG coordinator, internal, external examiner have to be seated in the same hall, but external can be outside. That's how some university modify theirs. Some university remember that the candidates can participate virtually, though different regulations are into that. The webcam have to be on. Some require that candidate have to go to another university in that city, and a collaboration will be reached so that the student is within an academic environment. And for students, anybody going virtually, you have to, especially for African, there is need to have at least 2 type of network. In case of network failure, there is also need to have backup power in case there is power failure. At the moment, that is very essential. Now let's look at structure variations of PhD defense. There's closed door Viva. Closed door Viva, examiners and assessors and the candidates engage in a private discussion. There's no external examiner. If there are 2 assessors, the 2 assessors and the candidates will be together to evaluate the work and engage in extensive discussion. There is no any outsider that will be there to observe it. Another mode is semi-closed door Viva. Semi-closed door Viva have the head of department, the external examiner or external assessors, internal external examiner, supervisor, postgraduate coordinator, sub-dean of the faculty, and PG college provost representative. This semi-closed door Viva is used in University of Ibadan, and all these people will be in the hall to examine the candidates. Another variation that is common is open door Viva. Open door Viva allows supervisors, colleagues, and other observers to attend. This attends to have audience, and the audience can be in the hall to observe the presentation. So some, after that presentation to the large audience, the audience will excuse them while the assessors interrogate the candidate further and evaluation will be done. So little variance can happen across different universities. Some universities have what they call pre-Viva meeting. Pre-Viva meeting, examiner may hold a preliminary meeting to discuss the thesis and clarify expectation before the actual Viva. So they might meet the candidates and do that. In some university, they will not meet the candidate, but they can write report on what they expect the candidate to correct ahead of the date of the Viva. The candidate will effect the correction. While some, the correction will be handed out to the candidate during the Viva, and the candidate will effect that correction. Now, procedural variation. There are procedural variation in PhD across university. Some have independent chair. They appoint an independent person to chair the panel. So the role of examiners, internal and external, may differ from university to university, evaluating the thesis, assessing the candidates, and others. So that variation can come in that area. Technology now are being integrated into Viva. Video conferencing tools are used, different platforms can be used. Virtual whiteboard can be used. So all these are integrating of technology into the Viva. Now let's go to the defense section, which is the question and answer section, where the examiners are cross-examining the candidates by asking the candidate questions, and the candidate is expected to answer them appropriately. So a candidate at this level is expected to be articulate in responding to both technical and non-technical questions that will be asked. Different questions will be asked. This candidate expected to demonstrate that his work is advancing knowledge in the field. He should be able to link theories with practice. He should be able to say the new frontier in the area. He should be versatile and use the literature review to respond to some of the questions that will be asked. In conclusion, this variation reflects the diversity of academic traditions, institutional policies, and technology advancement across universities. So these are what influence the variations of Viva across different universities. Traditions, policy, technology are making input. So different universities have different policies which will affect the pattern of the Viva. Traditions of the university. So it's good for a PhD to be aware of this. So the university of your choice might have variants from this, but this will provide a guide for you to know what to put in place while you are preparing for your Viva. I believe that going through this, what you should do again before the Viva, you should have some things in place to practice. You should also have your PowerPoint ready. You should have notebook and pen ready to take notes. You should also be ready to do your presentation within the time frame, and you should also be ready to have your thesis close by, the approved version. You should also have the ability to project into questions that are likely to come up, have pool of questions, ask supervisor, ask colleagues, and do your studies to have more questions even from those that have defended before. This can help you in preparing yourself, and also practice recorded practice section, recorded voice practice section, recorded video section, to make sure that you're able to present within the time frame, whether it is short time frame used by your university or is the long time frame used. You should be able to do your presentation within the time frame to be able to present appropriately. So I wish you all the best as you are preparing for PhD defense, and I also want you to drop your questions if you have further question, concern that needs to be answered. Also remember to take care of your mental health, physical fits on that day, and make sure that you are well prepared mentally and take care of stress and anxiety so that you can do justice to the work you've been doing over some period of years. I wish you all the best. Thank you.